What's up, guys? Matt here, coming at you with the brand new Angry Sparrow, Angry Bird chassis from Furitek for the AX24. This is going to be one you're probably either going to love it or you're going to hate it. You know, I think the people who just want performance are probably going to love it. If you're worried about looks too much, you're probably going to hate it. I don't know. I mean, it's different. I don't think it looks terrible. These don't look very good out of the box to me anyways. So you kind of ditch the body and you end up with this kind of wild look. Whatever, we'll show it when it's done, of course. But right away, a lot of good looking things going on here. We've got several mounting options for the upper links, several shock mount options. The other thing about this skid that it comes with, it moves the motor and stuff, the motor and transmission over a little, which centers up your motor. You can see how the holes are offset to one side versus dead in the center, because the problem is with this truck, when you start putting a different motor in here, if you go larger, you get into these links. So centering it up kind of helps that out. So it's nice that that's included. Aluminum skid. Let's check the weight real quick. I'm not going to do a full build of this. You know, these things are just, I mean, tear it down, build it. It's not that complicated. And I feel like a full install gets a little boring sometimes. So I just want to get a weight on this, show you guys, and then I'm going to get busy with the build and we'll talk about it after I get everything together, see how it goes. With pretty much everything, there's probably a couple extra screws in there I'm not going to use. We're like 23 grams. I imagine that, I don't know, with the way this, you're not going to want to run the sliders, I don't believe, with this. So it looks like we have these screws included that aren't as long as the stock screws for the skid, because they go through the slider and the skid. So you're just going to be ditching the sliders, which is kind of one of my favorite things about this truck, but not really needed with this setup. So we're going to get started with this and I'll talk about it as we go. So this thing definitely caught my eye right away just because it was so different. Some of the pics I seen of it, I wasn't quite sure I was going to just love it. But man, getting this thing in hand and getting it together, like, I actually really like how this thing turned out. And now that it's complete, like, I think it looks pretty good. And you thought I was going to swap over a stock truck. Come on now, this is 2FMRC. This ain't some bozo channel. We can't be doing this boring stuff. So the cool thing about this is you can take this stock truck, swap to this chassis, have all of these extra options, tuning options, or you can do a complete custom build, and it turned out looking sick. Like, I wasn't sure I was really gonna like the look of this at all. You could easily lay something in here to cover this, or put another piece of plastic on a hinge like here to drop down if you wanted a more of a body on it. But I actually, in person, I kind of like how this looks. It just looks mean, it looks different. You know, there's definitely, nobody really has a custom rig like this right now, and I'm pretty pleased with it. So that's the cool thing. You know, it does fit just a straight stock swap if you want to. You know, you've got your battery slot here, or you can take this and do something completely custom with it like I've done. So if you can even see it up in there, I do have the mini Komodo in there, and not the micro, the mini. So we've got pretty good size, smooth, meaty motor in there. Just fits with the way this thing folds up. So just clearing the drive shaft. At first I was having a little issue hitting that. I think I've got that solved now. If not, we may have to limit this travel a little bit, but I wanted this thing to sit like crazy low, and you can see it does. I mean, the servo is almost at the top of this thing. So that's pretty wild. And then cramming four-wheel steer and everything into this. Every time I go to build a truck with four-wheel steer, I'm like, yeah, I'll go ahead and do four-wheel steer. And then I get into it and it's all the extra wire, and I'm just like, I shouldn't have did four-wheel steer. But I wanted to keep this along the lines of the AX, so we do have four-wheel steering on this one. And I'm trying something new with these Next Racing shocks. These things are freaking wicked. They're meaty, like they're beefy. They're more for 18th scale. They're made for the TRX4M, and they're huge. So I don't know that I would really want these in the front, but they are some of the smoothest shocks because they have this reservoir. So these are oil filled, really smooth, and they actually work. Like this is a little reservoir, so you can screw this cap off, and there's a little plate inside of there, and if you push the shock, just so you know, that thing will go and you'll spend an hour looking for it. Not like I really know, but anyways, they are crazy smooth. They don't have a bad feel to them. They may be a little stiff. I don't know. I was just curious and wanted to try them out. So I'll put them on the rear. I like a little shorter shock in the front, kind of keeps that front end down really. And you can see these hard park shocks are perfect for the front of this. The best thing about those is I can run a narrow wheelbase. If my tire's hitting, this little sleeve spins, so it's really not a big deal. And then I go a little longer in the rear, and I thought, you know, if I'm trying things, let's just try these shocks. So not sure they're gonna work well. They may be too meaty, they may be a little too stiff. I don't know, but they seem pretty nice. I did flip them so that these big barrels of the reservoirs were down. That's just a little extra weight. Plus, I think it looks better that being down there than up here because they're just way oversized. And I'm not a big fan of running these huge shocks on these little things. I really like the stock AX24 shocks. I just didn't have any extras of those around. And this ended up just being an all extra parts build. Thankful for Tony at CCXRC, man. He sent me over this mighty Chihuahua to try out. There's the specs on it if you want to pause the video and check that out. Very good servo seems to be. So I'm running that on the front, and then I have his Mighty Eagle on the back. I mean, this is the Angry Bird. We got to go with the Mighty Eagle, Mighty Chihuahua. It's just a mighty mad machine. So complete, just parts build thrown together. These axles were already together. I had them sitting around in a parts bin. Got a mofo, some brass steering links up front, a little cheapo Amazon brass cover there, some cheapo brass knuckles. Besides that, Lizard Pro in there. I think that pretty much covers it. Hard park rear links here. I made my uppers to get the wheelbase how I wanted it. And then these are some Furitek carbon fiber high clearance links on the front here, and some I made for the top. It's just what fit the wheelbase that I wanted to go with. I wanted the short front, like very short front. This has a good, about the perfect angle on the skid. I don't like too much. It seems like it digs in all the time. So really, it's about right. And with this being the short front end, by the time I'm gonna hook here, I'm basically gonna be getting over anything. So I should just kind of ease down it. Then we got all this clearance in the rear for those hanger lines, and this thing should be a lot of fun. So I just wanted to show you guys a little bit on it. I'm just gonna run like these tiny little 120 packs. I made room back here. It'll fit either this way or whatever. It's tight, but I was trying to keep everything super low in this. So my hookup is here. Plug that up and we're good to go. So I really like the look of this actually once I get it together, and I like how everything went together. Lots of options for mounting shocks, links, and it just works for a custom build. So it's something you can start with a stock truck, swap it over, and then just grow with it. Basically, if you wanted to turn it into this over time, you know, that's an option. So let's go run this thing and see what kind of lines we can pull. So I was able to get a little bit of time out at the creek by the house here with this. And I started out with this climb here because I was pretty happy that I got this one done. I really didn't expect it to go through this. Had to get really vertical right here to kind of get started and get my tires wedged in just right. And then the four-wheel steer and just everything about this thing kind of carried me through this one. This is really why I break a lot of things. Most people probably wouldn't even put their truck in some of the binds that I put this thing in, but luckily nothing broke, got through it, and I was very impressed with this one. So I wanted to start here, and then just had a blast. So I'm going to let you guys watch them running, and then we'll talk about this thing a little more in a bit. So this thing sits really low. I can get about one Injora pin tire underneath the belly of this thing. So it's sitting really low, but it's able to get over quite a bit of stuff. You'll see I drag the belly, which is, common on a belly dragger that sits super low, but I'm still able to get over most things using either the four-wheel steer or just kind of launching the front end over it. I'm thinking I may put some scramblers on here. I haven't ran those in a little while, or some mudslingers. Kind of wanting to just go back and run those again, but I'm going to do one or the other. Sometimes, look, when a leaf just gets in there perfect, you feel like you're in Monster Jam. You got the flag hanging out the back. I had to do a little donut there, but no, I think like it'd be cool to just put like some old mudslingers on one of these or something. And I think the Pro Line dual stage foams will fit those pretty well, and I've been wanting to get those in something and get some time with them, so probably going to do that. But I was highly impressed with the way this thing ran. I think I may move my front shocks to get a little more down stroke on them, just so that front drops a little bit more when I'm trying to get over things, and the belly does hang a little bit. Letting that front drop just a little bit more would help, and it sits so low I don't think it's really going to hurt side hill too much. The rear shocks, I'm not too sure. They seemed a little bit stiff, but this thing drove good, so I may hang with them a little bit longer and get some more runtime on some tougher stuff. Some of this stuff was pretty wild. This one right here kind of had to start from downhill and get one tire onto this and then work them both up, and it was pretty impressive to get up and over that and then actually be able to get over this next section. Those are some big overhangs, and when you have an overhang that your entire tire will fit under, it makes it pretty hard to get up sometimes. So again, using kind of the four-wheel steer, used the rock there as like a wall to kind of walk up a little bit with the front. Just got it in the perfect position and was able to get up this. So very impressed with how this one ran. Overall, for just building it and taking it out and running it, I think it did great. So, when you don't have to do a ton of tuning right away, that's awesome. I really like the setup of this thing. I love the look of it. I'm really surprised. When I first seen this, I liked it because it was so different, but I wasn't sure I would just love the look of it. And I actually really like the look. Just don't know what it is, but that front end just looks ticked off, and I like that. So these tires did pretty good out here. I think they could have did better. This stuff's mossy and kind of slick sometimes and loose, and just you break the moss loose and it gets kind of dusty and slick. And this is some really loose rock at the bottom here, so it's kind of hard to get started on a line like this. But I was able to get up this. I do have flubber stuffers in these, and I feel like I kind of need to go just like a little bit smaller. I like to take almost what they recommend for a tire and go a hair smaller, because they're just not conforming real well. I may even try like the Proline dual stage foams in these or something, but I think the OGRC pin tires would have did really good out here, and fit this rig well, because they're so big that you're going to get a little more clearance on the belly probably. And you know, the flex on this thing and the 4-wheel steer was able to get a lot of things done that normally probably wouldn't get through, you know, just like this spot here. I can get through this with front steering only usually, but it's nice to have that rear steer. So that's one thing that the AX has going for it right out of the box. Then you can pick up a chassis like this for $40 and be set, really. This may be my favorite chassis from Furitek. Like, they did multiple link mounting options for the upper links, the multiple shock mounting options, you know, and I just like how you're able to keep it all so low and just go without a body. You know, if you're trying to get that performance, you don't really have to have that body. And I like that the only thing really that's like a plastic piece that's printed or anything is that top nose piece. Printed chassis and skids and stuff, for me, man, I break them, I strip them out, and I can't fight with them. It drives me nuts. So everything on this one works well, and I rolled this, flipped it, smacked it, and, you know, didn't hurt that plastic piece at all, and everything held up well. You can see here I'm getting a little time on the indoor course as well, and I've changed it up a little here lately, just hauled in some rock and just kind of like placed it in here as I brought it in, and didn't really set up any grate lines. So this is all kind of new. I haven't ran any of this, and just seen this line, I thought it would be cool. And it was tough, but I did get up and over this eventually. So right here, you can kind of see what I'm talking about with the tires, where I'm trying to put the truck in a little bit of a bind to get the tires to shape to the rock and really kind of conform around the shape of the rock and pull it up. And maybe it's just the tires are a little more firm, but I just wasn't getting much tire flex there. And that's why I'm thinking like a Scrambler or the OGRC pin tires, they would definitely give and pull up and over something like that. So probably going to look at switching to something like those, and then change out the foams and flubbers in these, and see what I can do with trying to get them a little softer, just really not getting the flex on the rocks that I want with them. But I like here how this thing is able to get high centered there, even though it sits crazy low. You know, I can use the 4-wheel steer and a little wheel speed and get up and over this. Now, all of this on the indoor course, I was running 2S, and I've kind of found out like I miss 3S when I'm running FCX or AX24 axles. The worm gears kind of slow you down. In some spots, I was just like, oh, I need more speed. I need more wheel speed. You know, I get used to running the FCX, and with those axles, I'm fine on 2S. I still run 3S sometimes, but I can get away with 2S with those axles. But as soon as I go to a setup like this, I just miss that 3S if I'm not running it. So I'll probably run 3S in this most of the time. Most of the outdoor running, I was actually running 3S on it. But this indoor pass, I had 2S in it. I like, you know, what Furitek did here. This thing, you can build any FCX24 on this chassis, even though, you know, it's really designed to swap over the AX24. It's, as far as I know, like the first AX24 chassis really being offered now. And for $40, it's pretty good. It's, like I said, it's probably my favorite Furitek chassis. And they just did a lot of things right, and it's different. And I kind of like that. I've been a lot about the hanger lines and going downhill a lot here lately. It's just a lot of fun to me. You know, everybody always builds their rigs to go uphill. And we'll be out crawling, you know, and people will be following me or whatever, and we're all good. And I'll start going down some crazy stuff and like hanging off of stuff, and people's heads just start rolling. They're like, what the heck? You know, and they're looping out, and I'm like, you know, these things got to go downhill too. So like, that's key. When you're building one, balance it out and make sure you can go downhill as well. So this thing seems to be balanced pretty well. Like I said, I would like to get just a little more travel maybe in the front end, but I was pretty impressed with how this thing ran. Very excited to get it out to my new favorite spot that I've been hitting quite a bit lately. That's just a pretty good little drive away, so I kind of like to dedicate a few hours when I'm going out there, take several trucks and just have fun and get a lot of clips. But you can see the breakover on this thing. Like right here, I was running the 2S, and I would have launched over that first try on 3S, but I was able to back up, punch it again, and kind of get over that. And that's where having the short front end, I can kind of launch it over stuff like that and then slide down it. I think this is a really good kit for the money. It's great if you're just doing a stock swap or if you're doing a custom build like I did here. I actually was more pleased with the look of it than I thought I would be initially. The front of it just looks mean and ticked off, you know, and there's something cool about driving that around. So I'm highly impressed with this thing. I get a really good hanging line here later that I was thrilled with on the indoor course. And you can see here just kind of going over these little cross lines. This is not really a line that we normally hit, but just going across some of this jagged stuff, this thing with the four-wheel steer, it's just unstoppable. So really excited to get this thing out to another few spots outdoors, and hopefully start on an outdoor testing course soon here at the house so I can get a lot more running for you guys. So definitely let me know what you think about this one. I'll put a link in the description, hopefully where you can pre-order it. This little hanging line is a lot of fun. I had to hit it over and over, and this thing's just like a freaking bat, man, hanging from the ceiling. Look at that. One tire, just kind of ease it down with the mini Komodo motor. So smooth. Cock the front wheels a little bit, and this thing drops off like nothing. So very impressed with this thing. Can't wait to get more time with it. Let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys so much. Peace.